18th, 6:00 p.m. This is the meeting of the Maplewood Community Design Review Board. We'll start with, let's see, roll call. And I just see that we have me, Jason, Amanda Reinert, and Anant Shankar, and Tom Osmond is not with us. So we have 4 out of 5, which gives us a quorum quite easily. So then we'll move on to the next item of business, which is the approval of the agenda. Staff, any additions, corrections, etc.?
No, we do not have any additions or corrections.
Okay, any comments from the board?
No comments from the board. I'll motion to approve the agenda for the January 18th CDRB meeting.
Okay, and I think we have Anant seconding. Is that correct?
Yes.
We will call this to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
It sounds like it's unanimous. Well, actually, I should call for any nays. None. It passes. We will move on to the approval of the minutes from our meeting of December 21st. Staff, any comments, corrections, etc.?
No comments or corrections.
Okay, and anything from the board?
No, Bill, I just see that Tom has just joined us, so you may want to make a little.
Hello, sorry, I was 30 seconds late.
That's okay. Glad to have you. So we have a full board tonight. Good. So so we'll let the record show that Thomas arrived at 6 minutes and 30 seconds. All right. So anyway, we were doing the approval of the minutes. Any comments from anybody? Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve the December 21st meeting minutes.
Okay.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, Anant made the motion. Jason seconded it. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Any abstentions? Okay, so it sounds like it is unanimous. We'll move on now to new business. Item number 1 is comprehensive sign plan, Independent School District 622 at 2410 Holloway Avenue East. Staff report, please.
Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. So, well, good evening, board. Nice to be with you this evening. This first item here, the Independent School District 622 is requesting to install a monument sign with a dynamic display and a wall sign on their building. The site is at 2410 Holloway Avenue. The site is 17.42 acres in size, and it will be the new Justice Allen Page Elementary School. They're requesting approval for a comprehensive sign plan. A comprehensive sign plan is required for institutional properties that wish to have a dynamic display on a monument sign, as well as for sites that are larger than 10 acres. The property is guided for institutional land use, and it's zoned R1 single dwelling. The comp plan guides the property for public schools and public institutional type uses. And this proposed sign plan meets the intent of the comprehensive plan. I provided the 2 location maps that the school district submitted here on this slide, and those were included in your report. Hopefully you're able to get a good picture here. It's hard to get them both on these PowerPoint slides, but as you'll see, Holloway Avenue is on the north end of the site, running east and west. The monument sign is proposed to be located off of Holloway Avenue and at the intersection of Holloway and where the driveway into the elementary school property will be. And then the wall sign is proposed to be located on the new building, and it will be on the south east side of the building towards the south end, which will cover the main entrance to the building. The proposed monument sign is 80 square feet in size. This exceeds the maximum allowable size of 50 square feet. The request was made due to visibility and the proximity to the adjacent roadways, the overall parcel size, and to ensure complete messages on the display screen. The setback is 28.5 feet from the right-of-way on Holloway and 30.53 from the entry drive to the new elementary school. This slide here shows the proposed wall signage. Again, this will be over the main entrance to the building on the east side of the building towards the south end. The wall sign would be 40 square feet, which exceeds the size standard of 24 square feet. And again, they're making this request for visibility due to the building location being set back from the street and just the overall size of the site, with the building being located farther south on the site. In addition to that, just the length of the school's name, and overall that the sign will complement the building design. Independent School District 622 submitted the application. Staff surveyed surrounding properties and sent notice to everyone within 300, or property owners within 350 feet. We did receive one comment. This was sent to me over the weekend, so it's not included in your staff report. I did, however, put it on a slide here, so we can read through that in a moment. And then there were no concerns from any department staff in our staff review. So I'll maybe just give you a moment to read through this rather than reading through it for you if you can see it. Otherwise, I'm happy to read through this comment for you if you could let me know whether or not you're able to see this. All right, did everyone get a chance to read that public comment?
Yes.
Okay, great. Moving on here, I think I might have accidentally skipped a slide, but essentially the comprehensive sign plan application is required to be reviewed and approved by the CDRB. Staff is recommending approval of the plan. And I think the one other thing I had on that other slide was that the comprehensive sign plan in our ordinance, it does provide the CDRB flexibility, and that's specific to areas, sign area. And so staff feels that the request for the larger sign area on the wall and on the monument sign meets the intent of the comprehensive sign plan application and why they're making this request. So with that, I will open this up to any questions that you have for staff, as well as we do have a couple folks here representing the application that I'm sure can answer questions as well.
Now, even before you put up that letter from the person, I was having similar concerns. My question is, as a city traffic engineer, reviewed the location of the monument sign in regards to any traffic issues and distraction of any vehicles moving around in that area of Maplewood.
Board, the engineering department reviewed this proposed comprehensive sign plan. It was sent out for review, and there were no comments or concerns from that division.
Do we have in any other area of Maplewood a similar dynamic sign installed on a monument sign so close to a couple of roads?
Isn't there one at the community center that would fall under that definition?
I believe so. I will say that this, the sign code was recently updated, as you are aware of, to allow for dynamic displays in proximity to in residential areas. We do have standards that were approved by the board, the planning commission, and the council to mitigate any impact on those residential properties that are nearby. We feel that the sign, will have a minor impact due to the standards that are in place now for dynamic displays in terms of brightness, as well as the timing of the messaging. We do currently limit the changeover on signage, on dynamic display signage for these institutional properties. So for date, time, and temperature, it's allowed to change every 30 seconds. Any other message would need to be on the board for 2 minutes, and it needs to be a complete message. So it won't be something where it would change over to the next message display.
Any time of night that the dynamic display would be on. For example, in winter time, would it be off, or what are the timings that we allow for that display to be on?
I missed the first part, but I think I get where you're going. So I did just pull up the ordinance here. This is the ordinance that was recently approved by the council. And here is what it says. The dynamic display must have an automatic dimmer control to produce a distant illumination change from a higher illumination level to a lower level for the time period between a half hour before sunset and a half hour after sunrise. And you'll notice that there isn't a specific time in there, just because obviously the sunrise and the sunset changes throughout the seasons. So when they submit their sign permit, we would review all these specs that are included for that dynamic display to ensure that it meets standards. And we did place a condition of approval on this design review for the comprehensive sign plan, that it meets all those standards. So if at any time those standards weren't being achieved, we would, work with the applicant to bring the sign into compliance if that were the case. But I don't think there would be an issue with that, because they can program those signs pretty easily to turn off and turn on when needed.
From the materials that were submitted to the base, it appears that it's matching the new architecture of the building. That is correct?
That's correct.
That's being used for the base is a brick that's being used on the face of the building.
That's correct.
So on the second sign on the building itself, why is the applicant not able to put the letters in 2 rows rather than stretch it out in 1 line?
I think regardless, what they're asking for is an increase in the height of the letters, and having it on, like you said, on 1 line across the building front. So in order to comply with the 24 square foot size standard, they would have to minimize the overall letter size of the individual letters. And I'll just note that, this isn't a variance request. Like I said at the, during the presentation, the design review board does have that authority to grant areas of exception as it relates to certain things, and one of them specifically called out is sign area.
I have one question. Which facade is the sign actually on? Is it on the north facing side, or is it on the west facing side?
Good question. The wall sign is on the east side of the building towards the south end. And I can pull up that slide if you'd like again, if anyone would like to see that.
Yes.
Please, if you would.
Absolutely. One moment.
I'll just add one clarification. It faces north. So
Okay.
like it faces Holloway.
Thank
I
you,
would say
thank
it
you.
faces northwest because there's a corner in that location, correct?
Correct. There is a corner. So yes, it would be most visible from northwest, but also straight north.
Oh, you're talking about the monument sign.
I'm talking about the signage on the building.
So the signage on the building is shown down here.
That would also face northwest.
North would be up here.
Yeah, so a person in the northwest would, because the building is kind of slants at that location. So as I see it, that sign also faces northwest.
The sign itself faces due north, but if you were coming, it's more visible from the northwest, but the sign itself faces straight north.
It's on the east-west axis of the building.
Yes, yes.
Perfect. So I personally am very comfortable with the sign size being on that elevation because there's a long distance between that location on the school and Holloway. And I think it's going to be scaled very appropriately for the location of that building on that property with the new site location.
Can you pull up that elevation, please, showing that sign again?
Certainly.
Oh, I understand the sign themselves are dark bronze. Is that correct? The letters?
That's correct.
And what is the back? What is the material color that the dark bronze letters are mounted on?
I think it's just mounted directly onto the building, so there wouldn't be anything behind those letters. They're individual panel letters.
The aluminum panels that the letters are mounted on are stainless steel metal panels. So there's a high contrast between the lettering and the panels behind.
So the dark bronze is mounted on stainless steel.
That's correct.
Okay. That's the color I wanted to hear about.
Mm.
I don't have any further questions for staff or the applicant.
Okay. I don't either. I like the proposal.
I don't have any further questions.
Pardon?
I do not have any further questions.
I would motion, I would motion to approve the plans for the Independent School District 622. I don't know what the date stamp on these are, but for the building at 24 Holloway, including items 1, 2, 3, and 4, as outlined in the staff recommendation.
Okay. We have a motion, and I'll make the second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call it to a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any nays? Hearing none, the motion passes. Congratulations to the applicants. We will now move on to the next item, which is design review resolution Scooters Coffee at 2228 Maplewood Drive North. Staff report, please.
All right, so Scooters Coffee is proposing to construct a 627 square foot, one-story building and operate a coffee shop on the property. Again, that's located at 2228 Maplewood Drive. The site is just under an acre. It's currently vacant property. They're requesting approval for design review and then as well a conditional use permit and a variance. The current controls of the property, it is located in our mixed use community land use guidance in zoned M1 light manufacturing. And the comprehensive plan guides the property for community and regional serving, commercial retail, and service businesses. The proposed use meets the intent of the comprehensive plan. This is a permitted use, a coffee shop in our M1 light manufacturing zoning district. Our code does require in the light manufacturing district that a building or exterior use or anything except parking essentially cannot be built or conducted within 350 feet of a residential district without a conditional use permit. A little bit about the site. So we are talking about the vacant land. It's at the intersection of County Road B and Maplewood Drive. Highway 61 is just to the west. There are some existing drainage and utility easements running throughout the site, around, and then also on the west side, almost towards the middle, running north. This leaves the most feasible building pad to be on that southeast corner where the building is located. Right now, construction is, providing approvals set to begin in June of 2022, with their hope to open in September of 2022. Quick turnaround, but I guess it's a small building. This would be the second Scooter's Coffee Shop. There currently is a coffee shop, if you recall, previously approved, and that's under construction at 2730 Stillwater Road. So again, the site or the building is 627 square feet, located on near that southeast corner. Access to the site is provided on Maplewood Drive. The building meets the 30-foot setback requirement. There's a small portion of pavement within the 15-foot parking setback. This area, vehicles will not be parked there in that illustrated space. It's used for leaving the drive-through and for access to the site. The actual parking area is well beyond that required 15-foot setback. Staff does not believe this will have an effect on the surrounding properties or negatively impact the traffic flow on the site or in that area. And that encroachment is reasonable due to the overall size of the development. Like I mentioned, the site is limited because of the size and shape of the parcel and those existing utility and drainage easements. The drive aisle and parking stalls meet size standards in our ordinance. The parking stalls are not actually required the way our ordinance is written for a restaurant or this type of use. It's based on the floor area that's dedicated for the actual patrons. And so because there is no interior space, we don't have a standard called out for this proposal, but they are providing 8 parking stalls, which would primarily be used for employee parking, it sounds like. The landscape plan, they are proposing 1 tree, 32 shrubs, and 32 grasses. Our environmental planner and our natural resources coordinator reviewed the plan and has provided a report with some recommendations, which was included in your staff report. So we did add a condition of approval that an updated landscape plan be submitted to staff for review and that they work with those folks to incorporate their recommendations in that updated plan. Property is located in the Keller Lake Shoreland Overlay. In review of the Shoreland Overlay standards, the building meets the structure setback requirement, which is 50 feet from the ordinary high water level, and it does not exceed the 40% of impervious surface coverage. So those standards are achieved. The elevations here, you'll see that there's a slight change in the height there, but at the highest point, it is 19 feet in height. They're proposing hardy plank lap siding and hardy reveal panels. They are showing signage on all sides of the building in these elevations. I will just point out that They won't be permitted to have signs on all sides of the building. You're not approving the signage tonight. That will be approved, when they obtain a sign permit separately. We did note that in our conditions of approval, that they won't be allowed to have all those signs on each, a sign on each elevation. The way our ordinance is written, they're allowed to have up to 2 wall signs, so they can determine where they want to place those. The elevations show that the building is going to be primarily light and darker gray. They're calling out colors inkwell and skyline steel, and it'll be accented by red awnings and black metal soffits. Our engineering staff and our environmental staff provided reports. Those again were included in your staff report with some recommendations and requirements. And staff surveyed the surrounding properties and sent public hearing notice to folks within 500 feet. We did receive 2 comments on the proposed development. Those were included in your report. The application is being reviewed by you tonight for design review. It will go to the Planning Commission next here this evening for the conditional use permit and the variance. And then those 2 items will also be reviewed by the council tentatively on February 14th. With that, certain conditions of approval that are outlined in your report, staff is recommending approval of the project at 222 Maplewood Drive. So happy to stand for questions, and I know the applicant is here as well.
Okay. The only thing I thought of when I was looking this over and checking out the site was that the traffic problem that could arise from it, that being there, but there was a gas station on that site before. Was there ever a traffic situation there? A problem with traffic?
No, and I mean, I guess I can't say that directly. What I will say is I was copied on an email from our engineer, Steve Love, as you all know.
Yeah.
And some of you may know the history of the site, that it was, used to be a gas station. There was a realignment of the frontage road. The frontage road used to be closer to Highway 61. The way it's actually placed now has improved the conditions, because before you had a frontage road entering right next to another where the lights for Highway 61 were. So now that it's farther back, it's actually quite an improvement. Our engineering staff didn't have any concerns with this, and in fact, I think his comment was that the traffic impact would be less. It's anticipated to be less. I can read that if you'd like. Here it is. Previously, there was very little distance separating Maplewood Drive from the Highway 61 intersection. As part of the street reconstruction project, the old gas station was torn down to make room for another small business on the newly created parcel. The proposed development will increase traffic over that of the existing vacant lot, obviously. However, I do not see this project increasing the level of traffic over the previous gas station. The proposed development has a much smaller building than the previous gas station, and the drive-through lane provides room for several vehicles. The site will be accessed, as we discussed, by a single driveway on Maplewood Drive, and there will be no direct access to County Road B. So some of that, I think what he's getting at is some of that traffic will funnel north as well.
Looking at the elevations, even though the building may be 19 feet tall, the roof is not that tall, right? So help me out. So there seems to be a parapet wall all the way around, which possibly could hide any mechanical units up on the roof. Is that correct?
They're not showing any mechanical units there. I might leave that for Chris to answer. They would be required to be screened for our standards.
Yes, so this is basically going to be a mimic of what we did on 2730. So there would be nothing visible. And I know you had brought up the hardy planking. There also is going to be the thin brick that we talked about in the first go-around, the first building, up I think 3 or 4 feet. So because there was some concern about salt and slush washing up on the building. So that's also one thing I would add. But yeah, nothing will be visible from the top or from the sides with the parapet.
how do you propose to discharge rainwater from the roof?
I don't know if that is in the documents I have. I mean, there would be roof drains that would come down, and I don't have that information in front of me as far as how that would tie in to sanitary. There is a drainage plan based on what engineering had written up as far as what we need to do.
I was just pulling that up.
My main question relates to whether the drainage is all internal to the building, or you might see some external scuppers or rain leaders on the face of the building. I'm asking the question from an aesthetic point of view.
Yep, 1 second. Try to find that file.
Well, if we don't have the answer, we can put that as a stipulation on our board.
Yeah, I do not have that answer offhand.
Just so I understand, the question is, where does the water run off from the building? Like in what direction or to what location?
All right, sometimes you have drains on the roof and the drains are internal to the building, and then they connect to the storm sewer below grade. Otherwise, you kind of discharge as a scupper outside, then you see those things. So I'm not seeing anything visible on the face of the building. I want to make sure that is the intent.
Yeah, I can't say for certain, but I believe that is the case, that it's internal.
We would prefer that to be internal because then you don't see anything on the outside.
Yep, exactly, understand.
I would think with 700 square feet of building, you wouldn't have a lot of watershed off that anyway. So.
Yeah, I think this came up Anant in the first review because you have a continuous drive aisle around the building. We also commented about just in the spring and fall when we have, water coming off that could refreeze, that it's not going into those drive aisles, or those drive aisles were cleared. I think it was addressed in the first building because the drive aisle is not that much different from the first site.
Okay.
Now we'll just note, I just pulled up the engineering review memo again. He does not address that specifically. He does just say that there are no additional management requirements for the site beyond his 2 comments, which is directing the runoff to the existing basins on the site. And so the applicant will need to have a stormwater maintenance agreement with the city for that. So that's all it really notes there, but I don't know if you want to add an additional comment or excuse me, condition, but we do have a condition of approval that the engineering's conditions are achieved.
Okay, we might do that. We might add that when we take a motion to approve this thing.
On the elevations, it looks like there are 2 downspouts on the rear end of the building. I'm looking at
the west facing elevation.
I believe so. So that's the only drainage that I see on the elevations. I'm looking at page A31.
I'm looking at A3.11.
Yeah, so it's labeled as number 14 in the keynotes. And you can see it's a roof scupper and downspout.
Yes, now I see it.
So that looks like the only drainage that's actually called out in the elevation.
Yeah, I do see it.
Now, if that is only for overflow, I would not have a concern. But if that was the main drain, even though it's only 700 square feet, if there was the main, usually you're required to provide a main drain and an overflow drain, both of them. And if the main drain is internal and this is just the overflow, it should normally not have any water in it at all, because the main drain takes care of the thing most of the time. So Bill and the rest of the board, when we do take a motion, I plan to make an additional sentence in there for this item.
Okay.
I think you might get to make the motion.
Yeah. Yeah. From the elevation, I just see how you get the water off the roof. I don't see where it goes. So yeah, I would support any reasonable motion or amendments you would make. Okay. Any other comments from the board? Any other questions?
One other comment that I would have, which I think the board has made many times for other projects, is that lacking colored elevations, I would ask the applicant to provide the staff with samples of building materials to review.
I have those with me, but being virtual, I can't really pass them around. I've got, piece of the hardy plank. Oops, a little blurry, but a piece of a hardy plank.
Hold that back by your head.
Sure.
It's a little further back. It's out of focus where you got.
Oh, it's because I had the blur on, I think.
Well, we can sort of see the color, but
here we go. Virtual background to none.
In these virtual meetings, what really helps is colored elevations, because we know that it's hard for you to provide the samples, physical samples.
So that is what it.
I can see that now. And where does that go?
So this would be the darker color. We use a red. So there's a picture in the report. I don't know if Elizabeth has that handy. I've got it here.
Sure. Yeah, I can pull. I'm assuming you're talking about what's in your narrative there.
Yeah, that'll give them a better idea of the color scheme.
Give me 1 second here.
A debut one.
Yep. You'll look at E2 attachment 7. And it's also on the back side. Yeah, actually, it's attachment 7 is 2 pages, or is it 1 page? And print it.
Is this what you're thinking of, Chris?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah, that one. Okay.
Yep, that would be the color scheme that we would be looking at with the materials we talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And those would be the signs that Elizabeth referred to. Those would be our typical signs. One question I did have, you mentioned that we could only have them on 2 sides, and that's what we did at our Midvale site. With this being that, does that frontage road not count as another?
It's just up to 2 is the way that the code is written.
Okay, I thought it was 1 per road that.
In this, no,
okay.
It's
okay.
up to 2. Yep.
No problem. Yep. Okay.
North side and the big one on the south side.
Well, we'll
Put a
deal with that at
freestanding
another
sign
time
on the
anyway.
other one.
So, okay. Any other comments, questions, etc.? Anand, you want to take a stab at this?
Which page am I looking at, guys?
Oh, if you look at
It's on page 16 of 36, but there's really not a long recommendation written out, so you'll have to bullet point out everything.
So there's stuff on page 17. I'll make a motion to approve the design plans for the 627 square foot Scooters Coffee drive-through kiosk at 2228 Maplewood Drive, based on the staff recommendations on page 16, 17, and 18.
Yep.
Then I will add, I guess I don't know what number to add, but I'll just add a paragraph stating that staff will ascertain that the main discharge of rainwater from the roof is internal, and that the scupper shown on the elevation is an overflow scupper.
Okay,
And I would also like to add to another, even though we have those two sketches, daytime sketch and nighttime sketch, that the applicant shall provide, I think he's already holding it in his hands anyway, that he shall submit those samples to staff for review.
okay, we have a motion. Anyone care to make a second on that? I will second it. Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion by Ananta, second by me. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we will take this to a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstentions? Sounds like it is unanimous. The motion passes.
Forward to seeing this site have something developed on it again.
Yeah,
So do we.
all I can really remember is when it was used as a staging area for storm piping. But yeah, that'd be nice. All right, we will move on then on the agenda to the next item is unfinished business. Is there anything from anybody? Any unfinished business? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next thing. Visitor presentations, anything? Board presentations.
It would be welcome for Amanda to maybe give a little bit of background on herself.
Yes.
Way to put me on the spot. I have a background in architectural design from the University of Minnesota, and I worked under two local architects. My background's primarily in residential, but I have done some light commercial as well. And currently, and for the past 11 years, I've worked in remodeling. So that in a nutshell is my background as far as how it relates to kind of what we're doing. And I'm looking forward to learning more about the commercial side of things.
Hey, thank you. It's good to have you with us.
Good to be here.
Yeah, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Moving on, staff, any presentations of yours?
No presentations from staff.
Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn the meeting for
Yeah.
the 18th of January.
I'll second.
And we got a motion and a second. Motion by Jason, second by Anant. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Any abstained? None. We are done. Thank you very much, everyone. We will see you again next month.
Yes.
Maybe someday we will get to meet in person again.
Yeah. Everyone take care. We do have applications, so plan on a meeting for February.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good to meet
Take
you all.
care.
And nice meeting, Elizabeth.